Welcome back to another Precision Flyer Repairs video. This is part 2 on my conversion of a Lionel American Flyer New Haven EP-5. And I had said in the first part I was going to try splicing in the second part to it. But due to some time constraints, I thought it better that I spend my time providing you an update on the progress made and figure out the merging of videos at another time. So basically what I did since you last saw this engine was take everything out except for the two vertical can motors, the speaker, and the geared power trucks. And in doing so, I got it down to a sheet metal platform, at which point then I figured out the best way to arrange the Cruise Command Lite with its 4 RLC board from Electric Railroad atop it, and the Sound Commander for EP-5 and GG1 engines, also from Electric Railroad. And the ultimate arrangement that I arrived at was to have the command unit here toward the aft of the engine and the sound unit ahead of it. Ideally, you'd put this sound unit as far from the command unit as possible, but that is about as far as I could place it, given there wasn't any room up in the nose or the tail of the engine for the Sound Commander to fit. One thing I did do is I put a false floor in underneath the Cruise Lite so as to raise it up 1/8 of an inch to allow better access and pathway for the wires in and out of this terminal strip, which is part of the Cruise Commander Lite. I'll just call it Cruise Lite from now on board. And so working from the front toward the back, I'll quickly go through the things that have been installed. I had originally set out to make this a TMCC and rail sounds conversion, but I soon found myself wanting to do a little more than that. So I converted the coupler in the back and the coupler in the front from the active couplers that they were to these electro couplers, which are command activated to open up with either a cab 1 or a cab 2. Then moving forward, I actually did run into a perplexing problem on this engine that I'll describe now. They were shorting out and throwing sparks and actually blowing fuses on my layout when I first tested this after final assembly through slow right-hand turns. And what it turned out to be is the way it's designed, at least the way this engine in particular was manufactured, the backs of these outer wheels on the power trucks can actually touch the stud of the adjacent gear next to it. You can see a little bit of pitting back here, and that's from where they would touch and arc and spark. So I had to disassemble these trucks, break them down to their smallest component other than these row of gears left on, pop these wheels off, and put a small thin metal washer up behind so as to keep clearance between the back of this wheel and the gear stud next to it. Now everything runs fine. While I have this turned over, I thought I'd also point out something unusual about this engine's design. None of the wheels pick up power. Only the vertical spring-loaded rollers that you see here, one on each side of each truck, pick up any power. And they're also isolated and insulated from anything metal on the truck. So you can see how critical it is that these wheels never contact anything on the chassis, because none of them are used for power pickup, which is a bit of an unusual but important difference to make note of. So then moving forward, as I mentioned, here's the Cruise Lite, here's the Sound Commander, the speaker that came with the unit, and as mentioned before, the new electro coupler. I also decided then to change out the lighting. It originally had grain of rice lamps, and I decided instead to change these out to 3mm white LEDs with the appropriate directional controlled diode in line and voltage regulating resistor in line. One important note that I discovered was that the power output to the lights is actually negative voltage, so that whereas you would normally wire these that the cathode be the common, it actually turns out you make the anode the common and the cathodes water powered separately off the terminal strip. This, by the way, is the antenna which gets plugged in, but I thought I'd leave that out so it's easier to roll this chassis and show you those things about the underside and also show you the rewiring. What I've done is I flipped the original lamp wires, and now what you have is the LED protruding through the brace that used to hold the grain of rice lamp, and instead now you plug the plug into there and use this to make the LED connection and allow you to take the engine apart easier with the shell off. That just about does it for everything I wanted to point out. Final assembly went well, but one last thing, this is the run program switch. It's in program mode when you set the engine number and then back in run mode normally. And all I did was repurpose what was here before, which was the rail sounds, standard sounds switch. And here where conventional on and off existed, no longer needed. It is important too, though, and you may already be aware of this, that electric railroads command boards can be operated in conventional mode or command mode, being TMCC or legacy. So really it's a multi-mode product when you're finished with it. You could run it on a layout with just a transformer, or one that has TMCC, or one that has legacy as well. So here's where we're at with everything now finally in place. And yes, I have layout tested it. That's where I did discover the issue with the design of the power trucks, creating some short circuits. That has been addressed, and part 3 of this conversion will soon follow, and that will be a layout test where I can demonstrate for you how it runs, how it sounds, how it lights up, and now remote controlled uncouples. Thanks so much for joining me for another Precision Flyer Repairs video, and until we meet again, be well and have fun running your trains.